Oh, good old Wario's Woods. This is labeled as a miscellaneous game, and there's no back of the box information on this page. Oh no. Released in December of 1994 by Nintendo. Also known as Wario no More. Also available on the Super Nintendo. This is one of the last games ever on the NES. It's a sad time. Puzzle game, developed and published by Nintendo, released both on the NES and Super NES. First released in Japan in February of 94, and we didn't get it in America until December of 94, almost a whole gosh darn year later. Europe did eventually get it in 1995, but no one cares about Europe. I'm sorry, Europe, I didn't mean what I said. The Super Nintendo version was released exclusively in North America in December of 94. Wario's Woods was the last officially licensed game released for the NES, according to this, and is also the only game in its library to have an official rating by the ESRB. Wow, oh it does, right there. This game is rated K through A. Who'd have thought? I was thinking M, or mature. Wario's Woods is a falling block game where the objective is to clear the playing field of monsters by using bombs, arranging them into rows of matching colors. Unlike other puzzle games such as Tetris, where the player directly manipulates the game pieces, we control Toad, who moves around the playing field and arranges them after they've fallen. The game was re-released multiple times, first as a broadcast on the Satellite View, or Satellaview, in 95 to 2000, and as a virtual console title for the Wii in 2006 and a 3DS and Wii U version in 2013. The objective, to clear the playing field by using bombs and matching colors, which are dropped into the playing field from the top of the screen. In order to do so, the monsters and bombs must be arranged by the player in such that 3 or more objects of the same color are placed adjacent to one another in horizontal, vertical, or diagonal rows. If I'm going too fast, just watch the screen, with at least one object being a bomb. Such rows are called a match. For example, a match may consist of 2 red monsters and 1 red bomb, but may also consist of 2 red bombs and 1 red monsters. Oh, when the playfield is cleared, we progress on to the next round, where the initial number of monsters increases. There are different monster types that can only be destroyed in specific ways, such as requiring 2 matches in quick succession or being placed in a diagonal match. Unlike other action puzzle games such as Tetris or Puzzle League, where we directly manipulate the game piece, we control Toad, who has to run around and pick things up and set things down and climb over things, and it's really kind of not as easy to control as you might think. He can kick things, he can scurry up the sides of stacks to retrieve special objects. Sadly, if you cannot clear the playing field of its objects quickly enough, the playfield will eventually fill to the brim and trap Toad, resulting in a game over. During play, there is a timer called the time gauge, which switches between bomb time and enemy time each time it expires, causing the game rules to change. During bomb time, Birdo drops bombs into the playing field. During enemy time, Wario drops monsters into the playing field and lowers the ceiling, shrinking the available space and making it harder to arrange objects. We do have a little story. According to the NES instruction manual, the events of Wario's Woods were first witnessed in a once peaceful area of the Mushroom Kingdom, known appropriately as the Peaceful Woods, where Wario had cast a spell over the forest's inhabitants and manipulated them in order to make them his minions. In an attempt to take over the Mushroom Kingdom, Wario uses his band of monsters to destroy the peace of the forest, and as a result, peaceful creatures were no longer welcome in the woods. Toad, who is introduced as the Mushroom Kingdom hero, makes his way to Wario's Woods in order to quiet the sinister lout and win the woods back for the sprites, fairy-like beings who keep peace in Wario's Woods until Wario gained control. With the help of a fairy known as Wanda, who could create bombs, and Birdo, who provided encouragement for Toad, Toad had to rescue the Mushroom Kingdom from Wario's greed and power. Toad's job was to take the bombs and line them up with the enemies of the woods so that Wario's monsters would go down in defeat. If Toad clears enough monster-packed sections of the forest, including various mini-bosses, he'll go up against the mighty Wario himself. After defeating Wario the first time, it is then revealed to Toad that the villain he had just defeated was a false Wario. Oh no, our Wario is in another forest. And the real Wario, in the meantime, had prepared for the final battle by inflating himself to massive size. Upon defeating the real Wario, the antagonist soon shrinks back to his regular size and is soon chased out of the wood by the victorious Toad, thus allowing peace to finally be restored to the woods. 2 modified versions of the Super Nintendo were released for the Satellaview and the, what's the other one? Oh, same thing, named Wario's Woods again. Wario's Woods had received lukewarm to favorable reviews. All game rated at 4 stars out of 5 for the NES version and 3.5 out of 5 for the NES or Super Nintendo. Christian Huey reviewed the NES version, stated the controls were both surprisingly complex and completely intuitive. I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, Christian. While playing a game that has a surprising level of depth and labeled the 2-player versus mode an extremely welcome addition to the core game. Scott Allen Marriott, who reviewed the Super Nintendo version, felt the game didn't quite measure up to the addictiveness of either Tetris or Dr. Mario, citing the game's extremely awkward controls and complicated gameplay. While Marriott appreciated that the developers were trying something new, he concluded that sometimes when you add things to an already proven formula, you dilute the ingredients that made it a success. Because Nintendo Power ceased coverage of NES games starting with its March 94 issue, it only reviewed the Super Nintendo version, giving it a 3.375 out of 5. And you know what? I kind of agree with Scott there. I didn't find the controls were quite as intuitive as Christian did. It just seemed kind of goofy. What you would expect to happen when you pushed a button didn't always happen. Maybe because the context wasn't right for that to happen, or whatever. But it wasn't a consistent kind of thing. But I'm gonna have to agree with him again that, you know, it was not an unpleasant game to play. But if I'm gonna play something like this, I'm gonna play Tetris, or I'm gonna play Dr. Mario. But I'm not gonna play Wario's Woods.